I feel like these days money is over everything, over everyone. We haven't realized as a humanity, as a civilization, that whatever we do to others, humans or animals, the environment, whatever we do to that is going to come back to us. We are in a cycle and we are part of the same thing. We're all different bits of one big thing.
What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. Before we start, this is a quick announcement to let you guys know that I'm dropping bonus episodes on Auxoro Premium. For less than $5 per month when you sign up for the year, you get a 2-hour bonus episode every month of my show, The Aux, that covers exciting and sometimes twisted topics like MKUltra, the COVID lab leak hypothesis, Tim Dillon, Tom Cruise, the Tuskegee experiment, the obesity epidemic, and more. You also get monthly solo episodes with my takes on drugs, sex, money, creativity, mindfulness, and you have the ability to submit topic suggestions for both of my shows, The Aux and the Auxoro podcast. Expect 3 hours of new exclusive podcast content per month, including access to all archived episodes found nowhere else but Auxoro Premium. Visit auxoro.supercast.com to sign up today. This is the best deal in podcasting. 3 hours of exclusive podcast content to punch you in the motherfucking mouth every month for less than $5. No half-assed episodes here. Go to auxoro.supercast.com to join the premium gang today. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Auxoro podcast, and this time I sit down with Rodrigo Castellanos. Rodrigo and I met in Colombia. I flew into Bogata with my girlfriend 2.5 months ago from the release of this podcast. I flew into Bogata, and then we flew into Santa Marta and stayed in Santa Marta for 17 days, which is a fucking beautiful town right on the coast, right by some beautiful beaches like Taganga, which is about a 15-minute drive. And then if you want to go a little bit further, you can go to Cabo San Juan, where we camped overnight. But I met Rodrigo because he was working for Carlos, my Airbnb host. I stayed in the same Airbnb, which was amazing. For all 16, 17 days that I was in Santa Marta, we were right in the city center, so we were right near everything, but we were also tucked away on the street. It was in the city center, right by the square, but we were tucked away on the street that made it feel like we weren't in the middle of everything. Almost like some spots by Washington Square Park. If you're in New York, you're by a busy area, but if you're in the right spot, you can feel like things are relatively quiet, and that's how the Airbnb felt. And it was an amazing stay, and I had a few deeper conversations with Carlos and Rodrigo, and Rodrigo was kind enough to tell us about Santa Marta and Colombia in general. He made sure we had safe rides all the time wherever we were going, that we weren't getting ripped off by sketchy cab drivers, and that we were going to safer areas. And I talked to Rodrigo about, how things are in Colombia. He's from Colombia. He's lived in Bogota. Right now he's living in Santa Marta. And I wanted to have Rodrigo on the podcast because a lot of times I will talk about what a place is like and give people recommendations, and that's fine. And part of the experience of going to a beautiful place is telling other people how beautiful that place is and why you liked it, why you didn't like it. But I felt like it would be a great episode to have Rodrigo on the podcast as someone who is from Colombia, who is living in Colombia, has been around Colombia his entire life, to talk about all things Colombian, the good, the bad. We got into corruption. We got into cocaine, obviously. Pablo Escobar. You can't have a discussion about Colombia without getting into that Colombiana, baby, that Blanco, that Colombiana Blanco. So we got into that. We got into art and photography and videography because Rodrigo, before he was working for Carlos, my Airbnb host, he's kind of assisting Carlos at the Airbnb. Rodrigo was a videographer and still is videographer, still works in video. He's taking a break from that right now, but he's done a lot of virtual reality filming, a lot of 360-degree filming, has worked for corporations down in Colombia, so we got into that art side of video as well. And we just had a conversation between a couple guys, one guy who is from New York and came down to visit a country, which I definitely was a little bit scared to head down to Colombia. I had my typical reservations of someone who's watched Narcos and thinks that as soon as you get off the plane, shit's just going to start popping off. You're going to hear guns in the background, chickens and dogs running wild. And there were definitely some spots that I felt less safe in Colombia, but for the most part, I felt very safe. We were smart. We stayed in the right areas. We were making good decisions at night. We, because of Rodrigo, had decent rides most of the time, and I can't wait to go back, honestly. And the cost of living is fucking unbeatable. I'm talking 5-star dinners for 2 people for $35 US, full course dinners. Fucking amazing. So a couple things before we get into it. Rodrigo was recording outside. So we did this remotely. We didn't get a chance to record this while I was down there because we ended up not linking up for the full 2-hour conversation. I was off either working or traveling with my girlfriend, and Rodrigo also had other things to do when he wasn't helping us out. And so we decided to record this once I got back to New York. So Rodrigo is recording in Bogata, and Santa Marta, and I am recording in New York. And so Rodrigo's Wi-Fi connection was not as good, so it cut out a couple times. So you might hear a coffee noise, a coffee pouring transition. That is when the sound cut out. And so that is to smooth things over. And then also there's some, after the 1 hour mark, there's a few spots where there's some kind of like trimming motor hedge noise, like someone's trimming the hedges in the background. Because Rodrigo was outside, this did get picked up, and I tried my best to minimize it with the filters and noise reduction and audio, but you can still hear it a little bit. So hopefully it's not too much of a distraction from the discussion. But it is there. So I wanted to let you guys know. So I'm really excited to put out this conversation. I want to put out conversations with people more when I travel to different areas. I think it's a great way to spread the word on places that you enjoy, is to record conversations with people, to make things with the people that are there and release them out into the public. So without further ado, here is my 2-hour deep dive with Rodrigo Castellanos. Rodrigo, thank you for joining me on the podcast. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks to you for inviting me.
Yeah, so the first thing that I'm thinking of now is that I need to go back to Colombia to restock my coffee supply, because I'm on shit Folgers coffee right now, which normally... I was
thinking about it.
Yeah, normally I would not have a problem with, but since I've been to Colombia, now I know what the best coffee in the world is like. And I was only able to bring back a few bags with me, and some of those were gifts for other people. And so now that I'm out of the coffee grinds from Colombia, I need to go back so I can smuggle some coffee through the border.
Sure. You have to. I'll be waiting here.
Mm-hmm. So I think a good place to start would be to let people know how we came to meet each other. And so I actually went down to Colombia with my girlfriend. It's been we were there the middle of August. I think it was August 17th to the 29th, and we're recording this in October 2021 right now. So I was there August 2021, a couple months ago, and I flew into Bogata. I was in Europe with my girlfriend. She's from France. And so we flew into Bogota, went to Santa Marta, stayed in this beautiful Airbnb for 17 days in Santa Marta, where you actually worked with Carlos, who owned the Airbnb in Bogata, and that's how we met. And you were kind enough to show us around way more than you had to. You know, most people just leave you the keys for Airbnb and that's it. But you showed us around. You made sure we had safe rides everywhere, and yeah, you played a big part in making sure that we had a good time. So that's how we linked up through the Airbnb in Santa Marta. So I'm grateful for that.
Right. It was my pleasure having you guys.
So tell me, to backtrack a little bit, tell me what you were doing before you started working with Carlos at the Airbnb, because I know you were living in a different place and you kind of fucked off during COVID and moved to Santa Marta. So tell me how that all happened.
Well, okay. So I was living in Bogota, the capital city of Colombia, which is a very big city, crowded, noisy, dirty. Well, it's really a messy city. And I am audiovisual producer. I am also a video director, and I make all kinds of commercial videos and corporate content for different kinds of companies. So that was my job. I was doing that, but at some point I was getting tired of the job itself. It became very like not grateful. I don't know if that's right for me.
Like
So,
not it just didn't feel fulfilling anymore. You didn't feel fulfilled. Like it was a good.
it wasn't fulfilling. Yes,
Yeah.
it wasn't fulfilling anymore. So I just got fed up of that and started to think, well, what am I going to do now? Because normally those videos are the ones that pay, that you can live on. But I was more interested in nature stuff, maybe documentaries and maybe artistic things which don't pay or don't pay enough to live. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what am I going to do now? And I was getting tired of my own profession. I was like starting to get bored, and I just decided to quit all that and not doing any more of that commercial stuff. So I had a sister who came here to Santa Marta, and I came to visit her. I was planning on coming. Actually, it was my mother that convinced me to come because I didn't want to. I was worried about the work and what am I going to do, and well, all the stuff that you got to think of when you're like reorganizing your life and giving away all that you have. So
Mm-hmm.
I came to visit her for a week, and then when I realized I had been here for 6 months, and well, I know Carlos from a long time ago, and he has that Airbnb, so I started working with him a little bit, and well, time passed by, and I was enjoying myself so much here that I never think about getting back to the big city.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were doing more corporate video work. You were doing things that were in the realm of videography, but you weren't enjoying it as much as you thought you would, or maybe you weren't enjoying it as much when you first got into it, and then you kind of got away from the corporate world, and then Santa Marta, it wasn't. It's not necessarily a video job, but it gives you another outlet to try to rediscover creativity or maybe work on some things. Are you working on video while you're there, or are you taking a break from video completely?
Well, I've had a couple of jobs, not actually filming but editing, because well, since the pandemic, yeah, I had the chance to find remote work, and I did a few editions, a few videos, post production, and well, I haven't been really working on filming, but I think I'm taking a break. Actually, it's like I want to stop a little bit. What I am doing is I keep taking photos. I take photos also, so that has been something I enjoyed here. And well, with these outstanding landscapes and places that we have here, it is a very good place to explore with my photography, which was mostly urban, in the city. So here I have a whole different background, different landscape to catch, and that's a nice thing.
Yeah, I'm starting to get more of an appreciation for photography, and I take photos, but I'm not a good photographer, and I've never practiced photography. But my girlfriend takes a ton of photos, and I'm actually trying to get her to post more photos because she doesn't share her work. She's in the process of creating a website right now, but watching her take photos and seeing some of the photos that she takes gives me a better appreciation for the art of photography, because you kind of like, I always think of it as, why take a photo when you can just look at it and see what's going on. And so I never really got the power of photography, but now that I'm looking at some of the photos that she's taking, and I've also followed some more photography accounts since we've been dating, you're looking at the snapshot that the person behind the lens wants to capture. So it's not necessarily a clean snapshot of reality. It's a filtered snapshot through the perspective of the photographer. And so you can even
Exactly.
get it. Yeah, you can get an emotion just looking off of one photo that a person takes. You can like a million different ways. You can take a million different photos of the same exact thing, just like you can have a million different conversations with the same person on a podcast. There's really a lot that goes into the lighting and the distance and the mood and the shutter speed. The framing. There's all these things that I'm slowly starting to realize that go into photography that I never realized before. So I've definitely started to get a greater appreciation for it, and going to Colombia and seeing some of the photos that she would take, and some where she would take of me, where I'm like, oh wow, that looks really cool. And I had just looked at the same thing 5 seconds before, whether it's a waterfall or we're at the coffee farm, but the photo that she took looked cooler a lot of times than what I was looking at through my own eyes.
Right. As you said, it's never actually like reality itself. A picture can never capture reality. And since we all are like different reflections of the universe, we will always have a different point of view and a different angle of it. So it is always influenced by that. And actually, you can also, like, there's a very good experiment that you take, you put like 5 different subjects to photograph something that's happening, and they're all in the same angle, they're all viewing the same thing, but actually, even when they post-produce the image, they will all get a different result too. So if you were like, I don't know, maybe it was a dull day, or you were a little blue inside, it will reflect that in the colors that you will handle, in the maybe the contrast. I mean, all the things you can twitch of the image, it's gonna also add more to that view. So it's really infinite what you can do and what you can communicate with an image. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I wonder if you'd be able to tell emotionally how someone was feeling based off of the photos that they chose to take that day, even if they weren't a skilled photographer. If you had 10 people and you said, go take random photos today, and then you go back and maybe someone who was feeling sad took photos of people that were mostly alone, or it was lit in a duller way or something like that, or you could feel the sadness in the photo, and like you could, and maybe that their photos would change if you told that person a happy story, or you were listening to more upbeat music. Would the way that you took photos actually change? Would you start to take photos that looked brighter and happier? So it's kind of this interesting back and forth that I've been realizing between the actual photo and the way that the photographer's feeling on that particular day, or whatever emotion that they're choosing to convey.
Absolutely, I think it's similar what a musician may do if he's writing a song and he's going through a difficult time. He would mostly write about that. I mean, it's going to reflect in his song. And also, if you are a listener, if you are having a nice, exciting day and you're full of energy and you're like super motivated, you want to hear that kind of music, and not the other way. So I think you can maybe intuitive. You can be intuitive what the emotions were of the artist.
What's up, guys? This is a quick break in the episode to remind you that if you like this conversation, you'll love Auxoro Premium. Go to auxoro.supercast.com to gain access to bonus episodes, the ability to suggest topics, and all premium archives for less than $5 per month. This is the best deal in premium podcasting, motherfucker. Go to auxoro.supercast.com for 3 hours of exclusive podcast content per month. We are allergic to half-assed episodes. Go to auxoro.supercast.com today.
You can be in.
We were walking around the Botero Museum in Bogata, and Botero, for people listening who aren't familiar with him, he paints a lot of fat people. Like the people that he paints are very
not only chubby, people, everything is fat.
Everything is fat. And
the table is fat.
Bowls of fruits, horses, people, the tables. Yeah. And I actually like there were very distinct ways in which he was making the photos, or not the photo, the paintings feel by the small adjustments in the way people were changing their face, because the faces weren't actually that detailed. They were very small. The eyes were small. The lips were small. Most of the detail was in the actual person's body or the background imagery. And there were a lot of ways in which, even by, skewing the smile a little bit, or some colors were maybe darker than others, and a lot of things that I probably didn't even pick up on because I'm not a painter myself. But I was just noticing all these people look similar, but the feelings of the paintings are so different. And so it's like these small things that Botero was changing that completely evoked a different emotion, like a woman in a bathtub looking at a reflection, and you could tell that she was sad, but there was nothing actually sad about the photo. It just had this kind of sad feeling to it, where if he changed one thing in the photo, maybe painted it a little bit different with the color, or maybe she was, her eyes were a little bit wider. I don't know. Maybe she'd be more surprised or more happy. So it was interesting. I really liked that museum in Bogata, the Botero Museum. That was probably my favorite thing that we saw in Bogata, inside. That was a very cool walkthrough.
Yeah, well, I'm not a very big fan of him, but I recognize his work and his trajectory. He's been a guy that has made a lot of his work. I mean, he's worldwide known, and he has huge sculptures in Europe and here also in Colombia. He has thousands of paintings in all museums around the world. I mean, he has done an amazing career, even though I don't like it very much.
What don't you like about Botero?
Well, I think it's what you said a little bit, that he has no detailed stuff in his paintings. He's like very. I mean, for me, it's plain. I don't see any joy watching his work. Like I don't get excited the way I could get excited watching maybe a painting of Miro or Rembrandt or someone like that has. It's maybe not exclusively the detail of the painting, but maybe the technique, the texture, the colors. I mean, I see him like all plain. It's like there's not very much to see, so I don't enjoy watching that.
Yeah. I appreciated how big his paintings were and how big the figures were. And I remember looking at his version of the Mona Lisa, and it was 30 times bigger or whatever than the actual Mona Lisa. I remember seeing the actual Mona Lisa in the Louvre, and people travel all over the world to see this painting. It's one of the most famous paintings in the world, if not the most famous painting. And I was walking, I was 12 years old, so I wasn't that tall, but I was walking into the room and there were all these people behind it. And so I didn't even think that was the Mona Lisa at first because it was so small. I thought
So small.
people,
It's like
yeah,
one of
we
the
were,
pictures you have in the back.
yeah,
Right?
I thought we were still online to get to the Mona Lisa. And my mom was like, no, that's it. It's that small square on the wall. And I was like, damn, like that's the size of the painting made it an underwhelming experience for me. And I know it's such a famous painting. There are things that I don't appreciate about it because I know nothing about art, but just the size of it. And as someone who doesn't really follow art, it's hard for me to get excited about something that's that small and you can't really see, especially in a museum. And so when I walked up to the Mona Lisa in the Botero Museum, I was like, oh, wow, this is like, I could take pictures of this. There's 3 other people in this room. She's so big and fat. You could actually see all the expressions. And it made everything in the museum a little bit funny, because even if it was a sad portrait of a family or, you know, someone that was clearly upset, there's something funny about fat people. And I know that people are going to be like, fuck you, like there's nothing funny about being fat, but like I grew up as a chubby kid, and like there's something like when someone does something funny, it's like a little bit more funny when they're fat. And so there's this there's this base, like if someone trips down the stairs and they're fat, like obviously that person's going to be in pain, but it's a little bit more funny seeing a fat person do it than a normal sized person. And so I felt like there's this baseline level of hilarity that was raised a little bit in the museum because everyone was chubby, big boned, fat, whatever was chubby, big boned, fat, whatever.
It has also to do with cuteness. I don't know. I think fat is also like it tends to awaken you cuteness. You know, like it's cuter also if he's fat. I mean, a little child is cuter if he's fat, and like you said, is someone is funnier if a comedian maybe is fat. He will be funnier and cuter than if he's a slim person. But it is interesting. Why is that?
It probably has to do with being a baby, and we're biologically programmed to find chubbiness a little bit cute. Because if you think about it, when you're a baby, you're at your most annoying stage in development, and you need people to care for you. So you're crying constantly, you're shitting your pants all the time. You need someone to feed you. You're up at all hours of the night. And so if you were an ugly thing, if you were an ugly baby, it would be harder for your parents to care for you.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of ugly babies out there, and parents, they their parents find a way to do it. But I think that cuteness factor when you're a kid, when you have those big eyes and you're chubby, I think it probably has to do with like you will be. It's better for evolution. You increase your chances of survival the cuter you are when you're the most helpless. So you're helpless, you're cute, and then you start to develop and you turn into, ugly or handsome or in between. Yeah, once you can take care of yourself, and it's like, fine, you don't need anyone else. But while you're in those developing stages, it seems like it would only help you to be cuter. And so I don't know, maybe Botero was tapping into that. Maybe he thought fat people had a certain elegance about them, because I know different cultures and at different points in history, we've considered different types of people in different shapes to be beautiful. So there were, like, when you were fat
and
back
healthy
in the day,
also.
Yeah.
Being a little fat is also a synonym of being healthy. I mean, if you're a skinny guy, you might be sick.
Yeah, no, that's true. If you're living in an empire thousands of years ago and most people are starving, if you see a fat person walking down the street, you know that they have money and they can feed themselves. So it becomes this status symbol. Whereas now it's kind of flipped, at least in America, where if you're skinnier, if you're fitter, it's a symbol of you eating healthy and keeping yourself in shape. And it can also be drug addict too. Like there's the skinny crackhead trope where if someone's too, like if someone's fit, they're like fit and maybe they have a little bit extra flab on them, or they have extra muscle. You associate that with healthy. But if someone's too skinny, you're like, oh, like there's something off.
Wrong.
They should be fuller.
Or feeding disorder, some of that, that people that eat something and then takes it back, like what is that called? Anorexia?
Anorexia, bulimia. Bulimia is where you throw it up, make yourself throw up.
Bulimia, that kind of stuff is heavy stuff.
Yeah, no, it's terrible stuff. Botero's subjects definitely did not have bulimia. They enjoyed keeping down their food. Actually,
I think he did it smart, because I've never seen anyone else that paints fat only. Like he just gave a room and an importance to fatness in the world, in the art of world, in the world of art. So he did fill a spot that nobody wasn't feeling. So I think he did it smart.
Yeah. And I think it's impressive that he stuck with it for so long, because
all his life
in podcasting, I talk to so many different types of people and have so many different types of conversations that can you hear me?
There was a little blackout there, but I hear you now.
You hear me now? Yeah, I was saying there's so many in podcasting. I talk to so many different types of people, whether it's creatives or business or a combination, so many different backgrounds, and I'm constantly feeling the need to explore a different side of creativity for podcasting. And so I'm impressed with Botero that he was able to stick with that type of figure for so long and still found different ways to explore within those fat paintings.
Incredible. All of his life he did that.
Yeah. So what type of paintings make you feel more alive? You mentioned that Botero, he's not your first choice. When you're going to a museum and you're walking through a room full of paintings, what are the type of paintings that make you feel more alive or most creative when you see them?
I enjoy a lot of impressionism and surrealism. Um,
So that's like a lot of different combinations of shapes and things like that. Like it's not a direct picture of reality.
yeah,
Surrealism.
I like to see. Well, surrealism is marvelous. I think because of the worlds it creates. Right? It's like
Hmm.
how they distort things and present them in a way that you will only see if you're having maybe a trip with some kind of substance.
Yeah.
um, it's like a window that you can see reality like really from another perspective. And impressionism, I think it makes me I enjoy it because of the texture it has. I mean, the technique of doing that is something really dedicated, something really um, mm, minucioso. What's the word of that? Um, like
Like
detailed.
very, yeah, just fine, detailed.
You
Uh,
have to do it very right,
like,
otherwise it's not gonna look okay.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I think that
yeah. I'm looking
is
at some
my.
examples.
Mhm.
I'm looking at some examples of surrealism now. It says surrealism sought to release the creative potential of the unconscious mind, for example, by the irrational juxtaposition of images. There's this one
And
picture.
it has a lot to do with dreams also. It's like a
Oh
oniric
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. There's this one painting that I've definitely seen before that comes up when you search surrealism on Google. It's a bunch of clocks, but the clocks look like they're towels and they're kind of
From Dali,
hanging loosely. Yeah, that's Dali.
probably Salvador Dali. He's one of the greatest exposures of
Sur-
surrealism.
Yeah, it's like these clocks. There's a clock hanging over a branch that looks like a towel. There's another one kind of hanging over a
Like
bed of
melted, like
rocks.
everything is
Yeah,
melting.
melting. Yeah, it looks like everything is melting. The clocks are melting in the picture, so
Yeah,
everything looks intact, but the clocks are melting away, which I imagine is his way of saying something about time. Like time is melting, or maybe time isn't always what it seems.
probably it has a lot of underneath significance. You know, like actually, time is one of the biggest things to talk about. It really well. It's supposed not to be linear, right? It's not supposed to be moving straight forward in a line. So
Hmm.
maybe that's his way to express that and to interpretate that.
Can you still hear me? It sounds like it's cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, but now I can hear you now. I was saying
Okay.
that
Yeah,
actually time
you were saying
bends.
time being bent.
Yes, because it's supposed that
Yeah, yeah.
nowadays time is not moving in a straight line, right? It's not that it
Yeah, no.
goes forward.
There's a lot of bending in these surrealism photos. There's one with a guy whose nose is bent into his pipe, and there's candles that are melting in ways that they don't usually melt, and there's a tiger that's twisted up in itself, like it almost looks like a tiger snake. So
Maybe
this
that's the
is
word. It's like
pretty
bending
wild.
reality.
Yeah, yeah. It's like taking something that we're used to looking at and then bending it in a way that we're not used to seeing. And so
Mm.
it's like combining combining two things that we're not that are not supposed to be together, like a tiger wrapping into a snake. And there are probably 1,000 different meanings behind that, but it gets you to look at it in a way that you don't normally look at reality. And I guess that's the beauty of making something, is that you can make it however you want, and make
Yeah.
someone feel however they feel based on those distortions.
Yeah. What maybe one of the reasons why I am interested in that kind of art is because I feel I don't fit in within any institution, you know. I don't believe very much in institutions, and I think that most of the educational system is nowadays wrong. I mean, how is it possible that we still learn the same way 100 years ago? For me, that's not right. For me, there's something that we're missing, that we're not doing, and that kind of art kind of shows you that, like, well, things are not just the way you have seen them. There are many ways to everything. So
Yeah.
and institutions are always so like, hey, hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So institutions
Can you hear
are
me?
always like, yes. Oh, but let's wait for that airplane. You hear it? Institutions, I think, are always like blinding the other side of reality. They only accept what they say and what they think about how things should be, and they don't left any room. They don't leave any room to other kinds of thinking and other possibilities, which I think are the most important thing in life. Possibilities. Life is not like we said about time. It's not going straight in a line forward. There are many paths. There are many ways to everything. So for me, it is key to let those options be, those options be seen by everyone, and not just stick with a blocked and squared way of thinking.
Yeah. So what's been your experience growing up in Colombia with the institutions that you've been a part of? You mentioned education system. You've also worked in corporate filmography and videography. So it would make more sense to start with education first. What was it like going through the educational system in Colombia? What was the learning environment? What was the material, like, problems looking back on it now that you're older? What do you think of the education in Colombia?
The opportunity to see like two very different and opposite maybe ways of seeing education. I started like the what we will call, what is it called in the States? It's like elementary school, and then comes prep school.
Elementary school, when you're younger. Like a private school, prep school, something like that.
No, I mean like the first part of the school, when you're like from 5 to 12, maybe.
Yeah, that would be elementary school, middle school. Those
Middle
years.
school, and then will come the prep school before university.
Middle school, and then high school, and high school.
Right.
Some people go to prep school for a year. So it's elementary school, middle school, high school.
Okay, so I had in my elementary school and oh, can you hear me? Hello? Okay. There
Hello?
you go. In my elementary school and my mid school, I was in a European school, which had a methodology like very, very open and very how can you say, like free to the student to be whatever they want to be, and maybe guide their interests, um, to strengthen the skills and desires of the student. We didn't had a uniform. We were like able to go out from the school and smoke if we wanted. We were able to um, have lunch outside. I mean, it was all kinds of freedoms that normally a school don't give you. Um, and so that's where I learned also languages and started to know more about like other other countries and other cultures, other ways to get along with life. And then I changed to a more traditional school, which was a more religious school. We had uniform. We couldn't do anything by your own. There was like no freedom to choose anything of what we wanted to learn or what we wanted to put the interest and the emphasis on different subjects. So I definitely think that the first one was better because I think you need, as when you're growing up, I think you need to have freedom to see and to learn about different things. If you don't get options, you will grow up like blinded of many things. And
Yeah, no, it sounds like I had a similar experience in terms of the types of institutions. I went to a public school, which is it's definitely less strict than private school in America. Public school is, it's guys and girls. It's, you have more freedom with classes that you take and curriculum and things like that. And the rules are much more lax. And so I did that until I was about 13 years old. And then from high school until college, I actually went to an all boys private school, which I had a great experience, but it's also more strict. There's less flexibility in the curriculum. There's give and take because I don't think I would be as disciplined as I am today without having gone to Chaminade, the private high school that I went to. So I think it definitely gave me a lot of skills of turning things in on time and being responsible because there were strict penalties whenever you miss homework, where I would talk to some of my friends in public high school and there weren't that many penalties as long as you were getting a C at least. Like as long as you weren't causing too many problems, you could get away with a lot of stuff. But in private school, it was more, you're getting this in on time. Anything else is not acceptable, and the standards were higher. But at the same time, there was less creativity. I remember, so one of the things that I did in high school was play the saxophone. I was in band, so I was in jazz band and traditional band for 4 years. And one of the reasons why I stopped playing and why I grew to dislike playing the saxophone is because there was no flexibility in the music that we would play. We would literally play 70% of the same music every single year for holiday times, for Easter. We didn't get any selection in the music that we chose. It was, this is what we're playing, and that's that. We never got to choose anything. And before I went to private school, I was playing saxophone in public school, and the teacher actually asked us, what type of music do you want to play? And we ended up playing things like from TV. We played the Family Guy theme song. We played Blues Brothers music. There was much more of a back and forth between the teachers and the students in public school, where it was kind of this creative relationship. And in private school, it was more, this is what you're doing. If you don't like it, leave. And you don't really have a say in what you're going to do creatively. You can be creative within the assignments that you're handed, but you can't really say, no, I this is actually a better idea. How about instead of writing a 10-page paper, what if I recorded a
Make a film.
podcast or something? Yeah.
Yeah,
What if I made a film?
podcast.
There really was no sort of flexibility in how you express yourself.
Right. I think discipline is very important, and knowing the that if you don't do what you have to do, it will bring you consequences, and if you do what you have to do, it will also bring you consequences. I mean, you got to learn that there are bad and good consequences for you, and they depend entirely on what you did before. But I don't think that not allowing you to screw up or mess things up is gonna be better for you. I think you gotta learn from experience. I think we humans learn everything from experience. I mean, how many times have you or have someone tried to make you understand maybe you should not make this mistake, but until you make it, you will not understand it really. So it's experience everything, and I think important stuff you can learn, but you can learn them being free. I mean, you don't have to be chained to learn something.
Yeah. And it's crazy looking back on it now, realizing how school was the same for everyone, for every type of person.
For everyone.
In
And what I
America,
said,
at
it's
least
like
pretty much, yeah.
100 years ago, people have been going to school, and they have learned the same kind of classes, the same subjects in the same way. How is that possible? I mean, world has changed a lot in this time, and the educational system hasn't changed very much. So what does that say? I think that's not right. I think there's something to be done about that.
Yeah, it's like one group of people made a decision 150 years ago on this is what school's going to be.
Yeah,
And
this is what
they're
we need to
making it.
learn.
Yeah, they're making it based off of the technology from hundreds of years ago and the available resources. And they said, okay, we're gonna send kids to school, and they're gonna learn these subjects, science, social studies, math, which are important things to understand. But the structure hasn't really changed, and there's so many different types of schooling, or so many different types of kids, that it seems odd that applying to school isn't more like applying for a job. That there are thousands of different types of jobs for different types of people, different types of skill sets. Why is school not like that, where there's just different types of public schools, where maybe one school is set up where you're more in nature and you're spending more time outside for people who learn better than that, or one school is much more visual, one school is much more like audio based for different types of learners, and you can actually pick and choose which curriculum you wanted to follow. And I think that's probably what the future of schools will be like, is that it'll get away from these public institutions that are funded by tax dollars that are all the same, and there's no creativity within the curriculum. And what's already starting to happen is private companies that have the money will create a system and say, here's what we're doing with our kids. They're actually learning and expressing their creativity, and they're learning all of the fundamental things that you learn in public school, but then we're also giving them these other outlets, and they're performing really well, and they're getting good jobs, and they're becoming, social members of society. So I think now that there are starting to become more options within the schooling system, we'll see, based on how these kids grow up, that, okay, maybe this is actually something that we should explore. We shouldn't send every single person to learn the same 8 subjects in the same way for 15 years straight. And like even now, as a working professional, I have 2, maybe 3 major tasks to complete during the day. And each of those tasks probably takes me a couple hours. So I know I'm focused on most days, like two major things, whether it's, editing a podcast, releasing a podcast, having a conversation, emailing, scheduling, things like that. Like I'll have two things that take up most of my day. And thinking that for, 18 years, there were 8 different subjects being crammed into my head on a daily basis, and we're expected to retain all of that. It's like you're learning so much shit in ways that we're just being built to memorize these lines and regurgitate it back in 8 different subjects. I feel like I would have been much better off going through maybe a couple years of learning the fundamentals and then focusing on the same thing for half the day, and just
right,
like
in your
getting
skills,
really deep,
your interest.
Yeah, getting really deep into one subject. Yeah, just
right,
like
in your
getting
skills,
really deep.
you're made for. I mean, that's what you have to find in life. I think you need to find what you're good for, what you love to do, and that is very difficult to do. I mean, and that is something you should find early in your life, so you can go on and do the stuff you came here to do. But if you are the most of your youth days are like just memorizing, like you said, school became that thing where they test your memory and where you have to learn from memory a lot of data, of topics and things, but you don't actually interiorize them. It's not very meaningful to you. It's just like you need to pass the exam and that's it. Once you pass the exam, you just forget it immediately. And it's no sense in that.
I didn't actually care about anything I was learning. I just wanted to learn it for the sake of memorizing it. And then an hour later after the test, I didn't give a shit about that information anymore. And it's a ridiculous way to learn, because your incentive is to memorize something for a short period of time, and you're not actually building skills. I never actually like built a skill in geometry or history or physics. I just learned to be able to regurgitate facts, and it wasn't piling up to be anything. I wasn't staying on the same path in one thing for so long in school, where I would look back and say, okay, now I've built this set of skills in a certain subject. I was doing that in sports. I was playing baseball for years and years and years, and you would practice the same skills and repetitions for every day. But in school, it's completely different. It's like, we're just going to throw all this shit at your brain, 10 different subjects a day. You're not actually building any skills that have to do with that. You're not incentivized to do anything besides memorize. And so it wasn't until I got out of school where I realized my passion was not connected to my education. I was educating myself to get to the point where I could actually learn about something that I had a passion in. And it's like, school is just all this shit that you don't actually have a passion for. And even if you do have a passion for something, like say I wanted to be a scientist for NASA, and so I would have to learn physics. The way that you learn it in school does not encourage you to build a deep understanding of whatever that subject is. And there are things that I probably would have enjoyed doing, that I connected the experience of learning that subject to the unsatisfying experience of going to school. And in my mind, I thought, okay, I don't like physics, but in reality, I just hated the way that it was being taught, or I hated the classroom. It wasn't the actual subject that I disliked. It was the system surrounding it.
It's like everything is useful. I mean, physics are absolutely useful. We are ruled by physics in this world. I mean, you gotta learn about physics, but you don't understand the world by memorizing a formula on how speed against the wind works. I mean, it's like you need to have practical examples, and you need to find practical situations in your daily life that will make you understand how that physics works. Also with geometry, I know every subject is necessary. You need to learn and to know about them, but not in that way. I think it's just the way they are handled is not the appropriate one. That was maybe the way people think, like I said before, 100 years ago. Maybe that was the ideal way, but that was a long time ago. So we need to give the kids tools to really understand the world, which is what I think the school is got to be made for. Understanding the world and having a little knowledge about it, how to handle it, how to live in it.
Yeah, and if people that were alive 150 years ago that first started the current education system could see today, they would probably think, you guys haven't changed anything. We set this up 150 years ago, sitting 30 kids in rooms with desks and tables because that's all we had. And in 150 years, you guys are still sitting in rows in a classroom with someone lecturing you on something. They're like, you haven't changed it. Like, they'd probably be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, incredible. I think it's a terrible flaw that we have there as humanity. I mean, it's really dragging us, like many other stuff, is dragging us to be stupid. I mean, and we as humanity have set like a working system that it works, but it's also diminishing us and killing us, actually. I mean, we're killing ourselves with our economy and with our money-based system, and all that is dragging us down. We need to find a way to transcend our conscience. I mean, the stuff we came here to do and what the human being is capable of is not going to the office and earning a salary and having a family and that's it. I mean, it's not possible that we still think that as civilization. I think we have to remove a lot of the basis that we're leaning on and build some new ones, because we're going in a really, I mean, false way. The way I see it, money is everything these days, and
speaking of,
that's not the way.
Yeah. So going off of that, I remember we had a long conversation when you were dropping us off at, I forget, not Taganga, not the beach, Tayrona National Park. Yeah, right. You were dropping us off at Tayrona, and we were talking a little bit about the corruption in Colombia and the film industry in particular, with contracts and things like that. Could you talk a little bit about how you experienced the film industry or videography in Colombia and working with people, contracts, things like that? How does it work? What was your experience like, and what was some of the corruption that you went through in your own work and you were seeing around you?
Well, I have now like seen that. I don't think it's particular from Colombia. I think it has already spread to the whole world. Corruption is what nowadays is the law now everywhere. I mean, you want something, you'll get it if you have the money and you know who to give the money. and that works everywhere. I mean, it's not only here. We have an extreme disease of corruption here in this country, because I think I've thought of that a lot, and I think Colombia has many weights in its back, like the insecurity, the violence, the drugs, the corruption. I mean, it's something that we carry on our backs, and I have always tried to find out why. Why is that? And the only answer I can get to is that it is the price to live in paradise. At some point, I realized that I was born in paradise. Actually, I believe that. I think this place is one of the most privileged places around the world. We have everything here. You don't lack anything. Whatever you want, you can have. And that must come with a price to pay. And I think that corruption and violence and this drug dealing shit that we are surrounded by is the price we pay for living here and for having all what we have. So corruption is one of those things that we have to live on with. Yeah, like I said, money is over everything nowadays. I mean, nothing is important in the world we have built more than money. Nothing is more important than that. And it traduces like in that if you want to earn a contract, something that is like I don't know the word. It's like a licitación. It's a contract that goes out to the public, and many companies and people can show themselves and offer themselves to do it. And it's supposed that a committee will see all the options and choose the best one. That's the way most of the contracts are issued here. And the sad reality of this is that not the best option for the job will get the contract, but the option that gives a commission to the person deciding on who's going to take the contract. And this is what happens a lot in a government level. I mean, public infrastructure is made like that. That's why things collapse before they're even open to the people, and it happens in every field. And sadly, in the private field, it's the same. There are many people, it's people always. I mean, everything happens for the people and because of the people. And there is now like this costume of seeing what can I get for my benefit of this, you know. My job is to find the best option available for doing this job. But I'm gonna see which of these options has a benefit for me first. And then, well, I just give them the contract. And if they were not the best ones, well, what can I do? I just had made a bad choice. No one is gonna judge me for that. It's not a punishable thing to make a mistake, right? But the reality is that things are being done over these commissions, and I used to think that was only in a government level, you know, like in the state decisions and things that they do. But I realized that it also impacts on the private life and on the regular jobs of everything. You can see it also in the migration. We have a big migration issue now, and you can see people hiring the immigrants because they have to pay less to them, and they don't have to pay like social security and anything of that comes in addition to the salary. They don't have to pay it, so they just hire someone without any papers, without maybe any skills, because they will just pay less. And that's like everywhere. I've found it everywhere, and it's very disappointing to see that that's where that's where the world has come to work. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that also made me quit.
It's similar things. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's one of the things that also made me quit, like what I was doing before. I was fed up, and I don't have the face, and I don't have what it takes to tell you if you're the one making the decision. I don't have the face to come to you and tell you, if you give me the contract, I'll give you 10% of the contract.
Oh wow, man. So we were talking about corruption, and I heard the end where you were saying how it's not necessarily just Colombia, which is true. That there's corruption in many different countries. Wherever there are humans and money, corruption is going to take place. And you know, Colombia definitely has its own type of corruption, because it's a country that's so full of resources and minerals and other things like drugs, where people come in from countries with more money, and then they take advantage of the resources in Colombia, and then Colombians don't necessarily make anything back on the resources that are being taken from the country, that the country is being used for.
Right. That's something that has become also like usual. That first world countries come here and they just get almost everything for free because of the same corruption thing. I mean, some big company from Canada comes and tells you, well, we're going to extract I don't know what kind of mineral that you get only in the Paramos, which is an ecosystem unique in the world that we have here. And we have like 80% of the Paramos in the whole world, which is a very rich environment, ecosystem. It's a factory of pure water, and they have no regard in pollute that and contaminate and eradicate that ecosystem as long as they get what they're mining. And the government just lets them do it because the company would say, okay, who is in charge of this? The mayor of the town, or the governor, or whoever. You're gonna get a big bonus if you just let us do this, and we won't handle the consequences, right, of the contamination we do. But we're gonna give you a nice juicy bonus. So the guy says, okay, do it, and that's how where we are.
Yeah, that's how the world goes around. You grease the wheels at the top. You pay the person off at the top that's in control. Then someone else can come in and take the resources. They leave the damage. There's pollution, and they get what they want. And then the people that
corruption
aren't
comes
making
from the first world.
Yeah, and the people that aren't making the decisions at the top are usually the ones who suffer. It's the average person, the average working class person that suffers the consequences, because they don't have the money to build an upgraded air filtration system to stop pollution, or live away from where things are happening and just pick up and go. So usually it's the everyday person that suffers the most.
They have dried out rivers, entire rivers. I mean, you know what kind of damage can make the dry out of a river. I mean, thousands of people live and count on that river along the path of the river to live and to grow their food and to drink the water, and they just drown it off in no regard. I mean, it has happened a lot.
Yeah.
And that proposal comes from that country or that company from the first world that comes and propose that kind of deal. And here people will just take it because we're so greedy. And I think our entire civilization is now built on corruption and greed.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's a cycle that keeps fulfilling itself, because you have a country that is poorer, like Colombia, where people, because they don't have as much money, they will do anything to get that money. And then you have first world countries like America that come in and they'll say, here's a shit ton of money, we want your resources. And it's either you take the money and you can have more for food and clothing and housing and stuff like that, or you reject the money and you go back to living in poverty. And so it seems like something like there's different types of corruption. So
yeah, but also
Colombia,
the sad thing is that these people don't live in poverty. The ones that get the bonus are not poor. You know, I mean, the guy deciding that, the guy making the deal, he doesn't really need that kind of money. I mean, he lives all right. Mm-hmm. He goes to vacation in Canada and mm-hmm. Europe. I mean, he's not the one that needs the money, but he only wants more.
True.
And
so there's a disconnect between the decisions that people are making at the top and the consequences that the average person suffers. So the politician that's accepting the money, that's accepting the bribes, doesn't really have many interactions with people who are living in, you know, maybe they're living as an average person in Bogata or Medellin or wherever, and so the politician is separated from that. They're living in a giant house somewhere else, and they're accepting money that affects millions of people that they'll never meet, and they're not living in the same place. And it's a lot of similar things happen in America, where the people that are making decisions that affect 300 million people are in a position where they're not actually going to be affected by that decision. Like when a politician votes to send, when a politician in America votes for us to be involved in a war, it's not their sons or daughters, and it's not them that are actually going to Afghanistan or going to Iraq. They're sending thousands of other troops that they don't really have a connection with, and they're just like these puzzle pieces that they're moving around on a board.
Exactly.
And I just wanted to make the point that, yeah, sure, Colombia is corrupt, but so is America. So are a lot of first world countries. And the first world countries take advantage of the corruption in Colombia and the lack of systems that are set up to benefit people, and they will use the money to fund the corruption and seek out the most corrupt people. Like there's probably people in America that will make a list of, okay, who are the most corrupt leaders in this country that we need the resources from, and they say, okay, these two guys in Colombia are in charge of these mines and they're the most corrupt. Let's go give them $1 million. We'll make $100 million mining the minerals. They'll take the payout, and then who cares about the consequences?
Oh wow, man.
So I was saying the corruption definitely is not unique to countries like Colombia and countries that are poor. There's different types of corruption, and in a lot of ways, it sounds like the corruption in America may actually be worse, because there are a lot of things that you can do in America that are legal that are clearly corrupt, like politicians accepting millions of dollars from companies and then going to vote on something that the company wants them to vote for, or lobbying. Essentially, it's like all these things that don't really make sense. You hear them and it's so obvious that how is this allowed? This is clearly a corrupt institution. Like, how are you expected to vote on what's best for the country when you have someone else putting millions of dollars into your campaign and accepting money to cause you to vote a certain way, or act a certain way, or support a certain cause? And so it's like legalized corruption in a lot of ways. And then first world countries like America can then use that money and then take the resources from the poorer countries, like in Colombia, where we're taking resources and there's drugs like cocaine that are coming into America that are literally worth billions of dollars per year. And it's this endless cycle that keeps fulfilling itself, that the countries that have the most money are willing to give that money to corrupt people in other countries to get what they want. And then those people want more money, and then the richer countries want more resources. And then it keeps going in this unstoppable force.
Right. And what I never understand is how can you desire that amount of money? I mean, it's not possible to spend that kind of money in your entire life. So what's the purpose on having it? I don't understand that.
More yachts. You can never have enough yachts.
It's incredible. I mean, there is not a way to do it, to spend it, to enjoy it. So what's the point of that? And it's incredible how things as terrible as the war. I mean, I was going to point out another example when that 9/11 event happened. It triggered a whole industry. The war industry ramped up a few times only has happened, and it is well known that the Bushes have all of their interest in the war industry. I mean, this has a tremendous impact on their economy. So it's like what are you willing to do, and what are you willing to perpetrate on people in order to just get your business better? It's like it's crazy.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now called The Afghanistan Papers, and it's about the war in Afghanistan and everything that happened after 9/11. And there are a lot of things coming out now about how Bush and other politicians in America took advantage of Americans feeling patriotic after 9/11, and people, understandably, a lot of people are like, fuck this. We're not going to let someone do this to our country. And then Bush took that energy and then directed it into going to war in a place that would make the most money and make the most profit. And we spent, billions of dollars training an army that was supposed to be able to fight the Taliban in Afghanistan. And, billions of dollars were made and put in people's pockets for weapons and for training. And then once we pulled out of Afghanistan, we built an Afghan army that collapsed in weeks or days, whatever it was. And people are asking, we were there, America was there for 20 years. What the fuck were we doing with all that time and money? Why did we go to Afghanistan in the first place? There's a lot of evidence that shows that the terrorists that attacked America weren't actually in the places that we were taking over, and that we may have been able to stop them earlier, that this could have been solved in 2001 or 2002. And then this war money-making machine dragged on, and you had that 9/11 incident that then got leveraged. It's like people in politics look to tap into the emotions of everyday people and then leverage that for their own political gain. And it's a very dark and corrupt system because you're taking the genuine emotions of someone and then you're twisting that into a force to get someone to vote or support something that on the surface may seem beneficial because you're in America, you're thinking at the time, and especially me because I'm around New York, I was a lot younger, but now I understand, America was attacked. People are looking for an outlet to direct that aggression. And then once we have that outlet, people trust our government to say, okay, we're not going to go to war. We're not going to go to fund an entire war against someone that didn't commit these attacks. Of course, these people are responsible. And then we learned that, there's a lot of shady shit that happens where we essentially went to war for 20 years for nothing. And the only thing that happened was we made the Taliban stronger, and people all around the world at the top level got rich. The people that supply the government contracts and the people that sell weapons. We basically got rich people richer, fucked over the everyday citizens in Afghanistan. The war was terrible for women and children and people that were just trying to go to work and make a living. And now the Taliban is governing again, and no one knows, what's going to happen to these people that are all living there that can't get out 5-10 years from now, or even a month from now. What's going to be like?
Right. The impact on the long-term impact on people, like you said, on regular day people is huge, and it's gonna be a terrible wound to heal. It's gonna leave a very deep scar on everyone. But as you said, I lost it. Well, anyway, I think that like I was saying earlier, I feel like these days money is over everything, over everyone, over just everything. And the way we're doing things, I mean, I guess the problem is that we haven't realized as a humanity, as a civilization, that whatever we do to others, and that's humans or animals or whatever, the environment, whatever we do to that is going to come back to us. We are in a cycle, and we are part of the same thing. We're all different bits of one big thing. And the life we do, our farming, the way we treat the livestock, the farming, the way we produce food, the way we produce things, I mean, the way we produce garbage, is not responsible, and it's not responsible with our sons, also with the future generations. It's not something that they're gonna be proud of, and we're actually stealing the future from them. It's like we're stealing the future from the entire planet, and for our own kids. So we need to transcend that and to really be conscious of the actions and the consequences of our own actions in the whole. I mean, whatever you do to others is what you're doing to yourself, and that's something that we still haven't learned. We don't have it in our inside.
Yeah. So something I wanted to get into is the way that Colombians view Pablo Escobar and the whole Narcos culture. Because before coming to Colombia, one of the most widespread depictions of Colombia to other countries is the whole Narcos culture and Pablo Escobar from the 1980s, and eventually being turned into this Netflix show where it's very kind of cool and romanticized, and it's become like Pablo Escobar has become this pop culture figure, and the cocaine industry in Colombia has become this sort of cool way for Hollywood to get an angle on Colombia. What do you think of the whole Narcos media culture, the way that Pablo Escobar has kind of become this pop culture icon? What do you think Colombians think about it? How do you feel when you see those sort of depictions in the media?
Well, that's also an incredible thing. Absolute nonsense. But well, I'm not very into watching that kind of shows. I don't like very much. I've been like getting away a lot of violence programs and the series that show that kind of stuff. And also, I mean, maybe it's because I'm Colombian and because I'm not very fun with that. But I never watch any kind of show that involves drugs or violence from my country. I mean, I've had enough living here, like, to want to watch a whole series about Pablo Escobar.
Yeah,
it's not in my interest. So I think it's incredible that this guy has become, like you said, the pop culture icon. There are now, like, I don't know, maybe 5 series, maybe 10 movies. There's like maybe 3 soap shows. Soap shows? What's the name for that?
Soap opera, series, something like that.
Yeah, well, there are many different products around him, and they sell so well. I believe that they just keep coming. And like I said, for me, it's not something I enjoy. I've never seen one of them. I'm not interested in them. But I think the regular Colombian enjoy them too, because everyone has seen them, and they talk about it. And well, it's like something, like you said, is pop culture now.
Do people in Colombia get offended when you bring up Pablo Escobar? Do they not care? How do people feel about it?
Maybe not Pablo Escobar like the character himself. I think it's more when you bring the cocaine issue as a joke. I mean, for us, it's not joke. We live in a very serious situation here because of that, and I think for nobody is funny to make a joke about that. There are many people that have died because of that. Many people live tremendous tremendous life stories because of that. And drug dealing is not a joke for us, I would say. It's a shame, actually. I see the way I see it, that we are known more because of drug dealing than because of our beautiful landscapes or our fruits or our happy people. I don't know. There are many good reasons to love my country, and it's not very fun when people make jokes about drugs and that, oh, you make the finest cocaine in the world. Well, nice for you if you like it. I don't know. is not something I'm proud of, and it's a very serious issue. It's a very serious subject to be treated like just as a joke.
Yeah. I it Pablo Escobar has a fascinating story, and I think what resonates with so many people and why all these studios keep making films and series about him is because violence and drugs and a lot of times the most negative things will sell. It's much easier to sell something when you're causing controversy than when you're making things that are more in a positive light. And then you also have the spinning of the story where you are turning his life into a movie. You're taking a story which is a guy who came from didn't have a lot and then made billions and billions of dollars, maybe trillions of dollars, because no one really knows how much money he had. So I think people resonate with that desire where everyone wants to come from nothing and make everything. And people that come from nothing will see that and say, he did terrible things to get there, but I respect the heights that he was able to reach. But what doesn't get depicted in a lot of films and Narcos and those series is the point of view from the average Colombian that was going through that time with Pablo Escobar, where he was murdering thousands of people, killing police officers, bribing everybody, blowing up planes and buildings just to get back at someone, and the destruction that the Medellin cartel and the effect that the Medellin cartel had and still has, because that's part of the stereotype of Colombia. And a part of the reason why I wanted to record the podcast is because as an American, the only thing that I have to give me a perspective of Colombia, because I'm not actually living there, is the way that people are portraying Colombia in things like movies or articles or TV series. And so a big part of my experience of going to Colombia was me realizing how much safer a country it is than what's actually portrayed in the media. And how beautiful Colombia is, the beautiful beaches, beautiful coffee farms, mountains. The people are amazing to talk to. If you know a little bit of Spanish, it helps you go a long way. And I felt for 95+% of the time, as long as you are being smart and having a plan, Colombia did not seem, I didn't feel unsafe when I was there. I felt like as long as I was, not walking around alone in sketchy parts of Bogata or Santa Marta at night, as long as I was being smart about calling cabs, that really, there are a lot of parts of Colombia that are the same as going through Manhattan, New York City. You don't be an idiot, be smart about what you're carrying on you. Don't try to stand out, and you will have a wonderful time and explore some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, some of the most beautiful places, beautiful hikes in the world. And I, because I had that preconception of danger, which a lot of it is left over from the 1980s and 90s, a big aspect of the trip was me realizing, yes, Colombia has its own dangerous parts. Yes, there's still aspects of the cartel there, but there are ways in which you can have an amazing time in Colombia and be truly safe with the way that you travel.
Right. Yeah, I think it's safer now overall, but yeah, well, like every place, you need to be smart, like you say. But it is now much. There is now much more good publicity of our country, I think, abroad. that there was used to be like some years ago only the news outside Colombia were only kidnappings and killings and bombs. Well, that was like the things they showed, but now it's like we're getting open to a whole new era of tourism and of people coming and getting to know the country, the people, and for what I've heard and for what I've spoken to other people, they always leave very happy of their experience and what they've seen, uh, what they've lived here. Mm. Actually, about that you were saying of Paulo is like the people used to love him also. I mean, that's what I know because I was a little boy at that time. But he was also kind of a beloved person in Medellin because he used to give houses to people. He used to give money to people. I mean, he would just go to a street and start giving money to everyone. So that kind of person makes himself loved, right?
Yeah, he had a very mixed relationship with the public because he was making people unsafe with murder and bribery and corruption, and at the same time he was handing out millions of dollars to build new infrastructure, new playgrounds, and I imagine people were confused on how to feel, and he probably would have stayed alive for a lot longer if he didn't kill people, if he didn't cause so much destruction through taking people's lives and blowing shit up. And he was only dealing drugs, he probably could have lasted a lot longer. Maybe would be alive today. It was when he started venturing down a super dark path that I imagine the Colombian government started to push back and said, this guy can't do this anymore.
Yeah, they didn't let him out. Actually, he was trying to get into the government, and he wanted to legalize cocaine. And well, actually, he got voted. I mean, he had a crowd backing him up, and well, I think actually he was doing it like in a very straightforward way. I mean, he didn't had any filter, and he didn't want to hide what he was doing and the way he was doing it. He was clever on that, and I think that was more honest, like in at some point, because what we see today here is that we have like the same thing, but in a more quiet or not so easy to see way. I mean, the government here is like a narco government. We have like a militia narco government. I don't know how to say it in English. It's like a gobierno narco paramilitar, you know?
Yeah, like a paramilitary government, Narcos government. It's like a militarized state almost.
So that's what we have now, and we have it like in a less clear to see. It is less clear to see to people what we have, but that's what we have.
Yeah.
And somehow he wanted to do it. He wanted to do the same, but just as it is. I mean, not lying to everyone and not like making things up to cover up the reality.
Do people in Colombia ever talk about legalizing cocaine? Is there an active discussion about that? Because in America, people go back and forth on legalization of certain drugs. And marijuana, for example, we're so close to Mexico, and we get a lot of marijuana from Mexico, and that eventually became legal in a lot of states in America. Are there similar type of discussions happening in Colombia about legalizing cocaine and actually making it an industry where people could work in and not have to escape the law?
Well, I think there's a lot more debate on marijuana too. I think cocaine is a much delicate subject to deal with. I mean, you cannot compare it.
Yeah, it's definitely much more of a stronger addictive substance than marijuana for sure. It would have to be much more tightly regulated than marijuana.
Yes, and I think all well, actually, liquor and alcohol, it's a very very dangerous substance. I mean,
Yeah.
brings a lot of people down, and it makes a lot of accidents happen, and makes well, it's not very very nice drug either, but it's broadly accepted. Um, but I think the main discussion is also on marijuana, on legalizing marijuana now, because of mostly because of the medicine benefits, right? I mean, I think uh, it should be at least regulated. I don't know if entirely legalized, but at least it should be regulated to so that people can take advantage of it for benefits, maybe not just to be a pothead.
Yeah.
But definitely is a healing substance, or a medicine, natural medicine. I mean, everything comes from the plants. Actually, Coke is also made of a plant which is sacred. I mean, if you chew the Coke leaf, it will give you also effects, but it is not like snorting a line of cocaine.
Yeah.
So I think it all comes on the way you use it. I mean, I don't think any substance should be prohibited. I mean, nature gave it, and it's not something you just can deny or say this is bad just because of because I think of. I think what's bad is the use we give to it, and how we treat it, and how we manipulate it. But every plant should be free. I mean, we don't have the power or the knowledge to say what should be around and what should not. It's like saying that of an animal. I don't like lizards, so lizards should be banned, or they should be eradicated. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, I think right now, I think right now I would actually be for legalizing the cocaine industry, and I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago. But the more I learn about the patterns and the ways that people do drugs and the ways that it's produced, and people getting killed by contaminated substances, where you have other harmful things that are in the cocaine that are causing people's heart to stop and go into comas and things like that, like fentanyl. There's so much sketchy shit that goes on in cocaine production. The way that I think about it is, you have an industry that's worth billions of dollars, and it's the urge to do a drug like cocaine is not going away, whether it's legal or illegal. The people that want to do cocaine are going to find a way to do cocaine. And so when you have an industry like that, and you have the desire from millions of people around the world to engage in this activity, why not legalize it, which would make the production of cocaine a lot less sketchy, where it would actually be tested, and you would not be allowed to manufacture cocaine unless you passed certain quality tests. And then also, the average Colombian citizen in countries where cocaine was produced would be able to make money back in some sort of tax refund or system where every, let's say every ounce of cocaine that's sold to someone overseas, there would be a tax on that goes back to the country of origin, which it's sold, which most of the cocaine comes from Colombia. So people in Colombia would be benefiting from it, and then the people around the world that are doing it would have a safer product. And of course, corruption goes into that, where how maybe the money wouldn't actually go back to Colombian citizens. Maybe the government would pocket it, and history shows that the government is very good at taking money. So maybe it wouldn't work out that way at first. But in my head, there's cocaine's not going away. And so in my head, why not make it as safe as possible for the people that want to do it?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Actually, that's one of the ironies of our system. I think in many countries is the same. But like for example, here, all the taxes that are charged to the alcohol industry are the ones that fund educational system of the country. Mm-hmm. And all the taxes that come from the tobacco sales are the ones that fund the health system. Yeah. So, like, what are you talking about? As long as people is killing themselves, they can get educated and go to the doctor. Is that for real?
Yeah. No, and it seems like it would stop a lot of the violence that goes on between the cartels. Because imagine if you had a cartel that was bribing police officers and they were killing rival cartels, and it was all underground because it was illegal. And then you approached the cartel and said, hey, actually, you could file to start your own business because this is legal now, and you don't have to kill people and bribe police officers to be able to sell this. You just have to pass certain quality tests with the product that you're producing, like any other industry, and then you'd actually be allowed to open like your own business essentially and sell it to people however you wanted to make the rules. You could sell it to people that are at least 21 or 25 years old, and then part of each sale would be taxed and then be fed back into Colombia. So it seems like it would make Colombia more money, legal money. It would get rid of a lot of the violence, and the people that are actually doing the drug would be in a safer place because they wouldn't have to worry, does this have fentanyl in it? Am I going to die when I do this line? People would know exactly what's in the drug that they're taking, which is what goes on in America now in a lot of ways, where people that are smoking weed know that this is what percentage THC is in this. This is how people react. It's almost like you buy weed like you would buy Advil or another type of food, where right, pretty much what it's going to do to you and what's
and where
in
it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to play the game of, does this line have rat poison in it? What is this? Who's been cutting this up, and what does it have in it?
Absolutely, yes. No, on that way, I see it like that's the best way to do it. Actually, yes. I mean, like I said, nothing should be banned or prohibited if it's something that we have for us. I mean, everything in the planet is giving for us. What we need to do is learn to use it and to handle things in a right way. I mean, we cannot just let the crazy part of it take the control.
Yeah,
we need to think things up and make the best of it. I mean, no one should die because of experimenting or trying something, or just because enjoys to do something. I mean, it should be safe. Everything should be safe. Yeah, for people.
So I wanted to end off in the last 10 minutes or so on a more positive, beautiful aspect of Colombia, because I want people that are hearing this podcast to go visit and check it out for themselves. And if you live in New York, a flight from JFK to Bogota is the same distance, the same number of hours as going from JFK to LA, and it's much cheaper. I think it's like $220 round trip right now to go from JFK to Bogota. It's like a 5.5 hour flight, something like that. And so for you, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the places that you enjoy the most in Colombia that are overlooked by tourists? Maybe places that aren't thought about as much, but are still beautiful places to go and relatively safe to travel to.
Okay. Well, like I said in the beginning, I am convinced that this place we call Colombia is the paradise. I've never seen anything comparable. Here you will find everything. I think everything is possible to see in the world. You can find it here. You have two different oceans. You have high altitude snow. You have tropical beaches. You have the plains, huge plains. Actually, recently they found this what's it called? Like these paintings from prehistorical paintings. You know, like rupestric art. And what's the name of that? Rupest?
Yeah. Street art?
Well, excuse me?
Street art, you're saying?
No, street art. These paintings, like from the caves, from the men from the caves.
Okay, like, caves. I don't know the word for it.
Many years ago, thousands of years ago.
Yeah, like ancient civilizations.
Yeah, well, they just found in a remote place of the plains in Colombia paintings on stone walls and on caves that are 40,000 years old.
Wow.
So that means that people used to live there 40,000 years ago, and they did these paintings on the stone, and it makes you think, like, how was that place 40,000 years ago? It's amazing. And well, definitely that is one of the places that I would recommend to go, although it's very difficult to go. I mean, right now it's only for investigation purposes only. I mean, they give only access to scientists and researchers. I mean, it's not a touristic place now, but you are able to travel around it, and it's a very beautiful place. That is called Parque Nacional. Oh, it escaped from me. Give me a second. Chiviriquete is called Chiviriquete National Park.
Chimniquete National Park?
Chiviriquete.
Chibiriquete National Park.
Chiviriquete, right. And that whole area, it's a very beautiful area to see. I would definitely recommend to visit the Páramos, which is an ecosystem that you won't find almost anywhere else in the world. Actually, they only exist in America, and I think more than 80% are in Colombia. So you will find many of them here wherever you want to go to a páramo. It's a beautiful place, a very energetic place.
It's called Páramo?
Páramo. Páramo is called the ecosystem. And there are many different parks and many different areas where you can find them. But it's a unique place to see. I mean, if you want to see some like out of the world landscape, you have to go there.
What's your favorite city to spend time in? If it's someone's first trip going to Colombia, and let's say they're flying into Bogota, what what other city besides Bogota would you recommend spending a lot of time in? Like Medellin, Santa Marta? Where would you tell that
Well,
person to go?
definitely Santa Marta, where I'm now, is one of the best places around, because of the history of the city and because of all the things you can do around it. There are many different activities and places to go, beautiful places. The other place I was going to tell you is right here actually. It's called Tayrona National Park, which
Yeah.
is one of the best places to go to the beach. You'll find really the classic paradise beach that you will only see on a movie or or in your dreams. They're for real, and they're right here.
Yeah,
So the
Cabo
beaches.
San Juan. Cabo San Juan is where I stay with my girlfriend overnight. We actually slept on the beach in a tent, and
Yeah.
I would highly recommend staying overnight in Parque Tayrona and getting a tent, staying there. They have some houses too, but the tents were fine. And waking up to the sunset and drinking coffee at Cabo San Juan and just walking on the beach, going hiking there, walking through some of the trails. There's 3 or 4 different beaches there that you can go walk to and explore. The water is gorgeous. It's bright blue. You can see everything.
Right.
So such a beautiful sunrise and sunset. There's also a restaurant that's right on the beach that has fresh fish and meat and rice and smoothies. The maracuya that you recommended was very good.
And the Lulo.
And the Lulu, yes, got that. I think I got the Lulu and the maracuya and one other smoothie when I
Wow.
was there. It was I forget the name of the third one, but all of them were good and they were all fresh. And
Yeah.
the hike there was incredible too. I would definitely recommend doing the hike instead of the. I think some people take horses or they'll drive closer, but the hike into Cabo San Juan was unbelievable. And then
Right.
also the Minca coffee farms, I would say too, is one of my favorite parts of the trip is going to Minca and seeing how the actual coffee is made and driving up the mountains through that elevation with Hector, who you hooked us up with to give us a ride in the taxi. That was also an unbelievable experience. So for me, it was Cabo San Juan and Parque Tayrona, Minca, and then also staying in Santa Marta in the Airbnb where you work with Carlos. It feels like you're in the center of the city and you're so close to everything, which you are. But then it's also on kind of this secluded street with not a lot of cars and people going by. So it feels like you're almost tucked away from the busyness of everything, but you're right down the street from where everything is happening.
Right. And if you're going to the beach, you just make sure you bring goggles, because when you're on the water, inside the water, like you don't notice it, but if you can go under the water and you have your goggles, you will notice that there are all kinds of fishes swimming around you, and it's a very beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
And maybe to end, like the last place I would recommend is to see the Sierra Nevada del Cocuy, which is snowy mountains in the north that is also a national park, and you will find a lot of differences, like in the culture. They live there, and it's also a beautiful landscape. It's like a place in another time. It's like you'll find yourself immersed in a different time. The way I see it,
it's like
it's also
a bridge to Narnia, a different world.
something like that. Something like that.
Can you say the name of that last place one more time?
Sierra Nevada del Cocuy.
Sierra
It's in
Nevada
Boyacá.
del Cocuy.
Cocuy.
De
It's in
Cocuyoca.
Boyacá. And that way you will get a glance of everything, like all the different climates and different ecosystems, like some of them that we have here. I also recommend you to go to the jungle, but well, that's a whole different trip to the Amazon and that south part of Colombia. It's also amazing. But here, if you come to Santa Marta and to Tayrona, you also see a little bit of jungle. It's not the same kind, but it is also a jungle.
Yeah, and it's also a great place to go. Santa Marta is also a great place to stay if you're going on a trek to the Lost City. I didn't actually do it, but my girlfriend did it, and there was a bus that left from Santa Marta, and she said it was an amazing experience. And so yeah, that's also something else that you could do if you have another 3-4 days there.
Right. As I said, around Santa Marta there are many different things to do. Also, you have snow right here up the mountain. You can do a hike there too. It's a lot longer, but it's also possible. And you have also the Guajira, which is a very enigmatic place, like desertic place, right beside the sea. They take salt out of the sea, and they have like their own law there. It's like they have the inhabitants are all from an ancient culture called the Wayu, and they live also very different to what we're used to see. So La Guajira, you are very near to Cartagena, which is like the most common and touristic city of the Caribbean coast.
Yes.
You have the mountains, the Minca, the Tayrona Park. Well, there are many different things to do around Santa Marta. So I would definitely recommend that you, as soon as you land in Bogota, take another plane out of it.
Yeah, no. Bogota was great. I had a great 2 to 3 days in Bogota, and I feel like you could kind of get a vibe for the city in that amount of time. Santa Marta was definitely my favorite part of the trip. It was so beautiful. It felt much more inviting, and like you said, there are a lot of places that are an hour or two away, like Minca and Tayrona, that you can easily go to from Santa Marta.
Right. No, you have to come, because actually, everyone, like I said, lives very happy from here. Oh, hello.
Can you hear me, Rodrigo?
I hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, I was saying there. Santa Marta is definitely my favorite part of the trip. And yeah, for anyone listening to this, Colombia is a beautiful country. Fly into Bogota, go to Santa Marta. Next time I go back, I'm definitely going to come back to Santa Marta, and then also try to go to a new city like Medellin or Cartagena and explore. And I had such a good time, and I can't recommend it enough as a one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. One of the most inviting places, and meeting kind people in the places that I went, like yourself, that helped it be such a good time for my girlfriend and I. And don't listen to your parents if they give you a hard time about going to Colombia like mine did. Just don't let other people scare you out of it. Just do your research, be smart. Knowing a little bit of Spanish helps, and like you'd travel anywhere, be prepared, and the more prep you do before the trip, the more fun you'll have during the trip. So yeah, definitely, right. If you're listening to this, take the plunge and go to Colombia, and I will definitely be back sooner than later.
That's a nice advice. Do your research and try to take the most of it.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Rodrigo, again for hopping on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully I will see you soon when I'm back in Santa Marta, or we can link up if we're in the same city again, if it works out when I'm back in Colombia.
Right. It was my pleasure, Zach. Thank you for inviting me and letting me be part of it. I enjoyed it a lot, and you're all welcome back if you want, and everyone listening too, come here and pay us a visit. You'll get very happy.
Yes, I'm definitely gonna restock on coffee, and I'm gonna eat a lot of food again, so that I look more like so I look more like Botero. I'm gonna look like now before I go, and then when I come back next time, I'll look like a Botero painting.
Great.
All right,
Very healthy.
Thanks, Rodrigo.
Thanks to you. Have a nice one.